You've got the title, you've got the degree, you're crushing deadlines, managing a team, maybe even raising a family, but somehow you still hear that voice. Am I really good enough? Today on Revenue Without Borders, we're pulling back the curtain on imposter syndrome. Not the cute hashtag kind, but the silent soul taxing mindset that plagues even the most accomplished among us. Joining me today is Dr. Nikia Smith, a practicing anesthesiologist with over a decade in the field. She's a coach and a Black woman navigating elite professional spaces while challenging the toxic systems within them. From burnout to boundaries, receipts to reinvention, this episode is a masterclass in reclaiming your worth and designing a life you actually want to live. If you've ever felt like you're faking it while secretly running circles around everyone else, this one's for you. Let's get into it. Today, we are talking about imposter syndrome on this podcast. And for those of you that listen to this podcast, you know that this podcast is all about entrepreneurship through a global lens. But imposter syndrome is something that impacts a lot of us, whether you are in corporate or whether you are moving over to the entrepreneur side. Imposter syndrome is real. And joining me today to talk about this is Dr. Nikia Smith. She is from Las Vegas. She's joining us today, and we are going to talk about imposter syndrome, what it is, why it can be hampering your success, and what you can do about it. Dr. Smith, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this today.
I'm excited to be chatting with you about it. I wanted to kind of kick off and talk about your journey as a medical professional and why you thought it was so important to start talking about imposter syndrome.
Yeah. So I have been a practicing anesthesiologist now, with anesthesiologist attending for 10 years. And so that's 10 years after completing 8 years of training. So I just put that in perspective to say, like, for half of my life, I've been in a system that has kind of questioned every step that I've taken. And so that definitely is a breeding ground for imposter syndrome. But all my life, I've wanted to be a doctor since I was 8. And so I'll say, like, after the journey and becoming a doctor, the imposter syndrome doesn't go away, right? You think, oh, once I get to this level, I'll stop feeling like an imposter. I'll stop feeling like a fraud, or I'll stop feeling like I'm not good enough to be here. But honestly, it just kept going. So that's the interesting part of it. And people are like, oh, when I get to this next level or get this next degree, I won't feel like an imposter. That's just a lie that you're telling yourself. You can stop feeling like an imposter now, but changing an external title or a degree is not going to stop it. But I've lived with imposter syndrome. I lived through burnout and exhaustion. And that's the point where I finally got therapy. I started addressing all of the issues because the imposter syndrome contributes to your exhaustion and burnout because you're mentally fighting yourself every day. And that's the mental exhaustion that a lot of women sometimes forget. They're just like, I'll just go to sleep. I'm like, going to sleep does not help with your imposter syndrome or your anxiety or your overthinking. So it's a topic that I, have personally struggled with and I have mostly overcome. And say it's mostly because it's a journey. It's not like it's just over one day. It takes active, mindset shifts and daily mindset thinking to like not fall back into that and backslide. But I do love speaking about this topic and how it contributes to all aspects of your life, honestly.
It really does. And for those of people who may be listening, they'll be like, but yeah, I hear this term a lot, imposter syndrome. When I think of it, and I know that I have experienced this before, I feel as though, and this may or may not be the definition, but I feel as though it's this feeling that even though you know on paper you are qualified and you have everything that you are supposed to have, there is still some nagging concern or fear that you are just not good enough. And it doesn't really have a label about why. It's just something there that tells you you're not good enough.
Yes. And that's what you keep. It's like, it's almost like you're proving that you're good enough, like, but you're only really proving it to yourself. Although you're telling yourself you're proving it to other people. Like, oh, and that's why people go and do titles and extra stuff. Like, oh, once I get this, I will feel like I'm good enough. But they already know you're good enough. They've already hired you for this position. They've already given you this role to be in charge of this or do that. So they gave it to you because you know you're good enough, but you think you have to do more to prove you're good enough. And that is very exhausting.
It can be so exhausting. So I personally have experienced imposter
Uh-huh.
syndrome. I do think I still experience it, quite frankly, even though I'm
Uh-huh.
doing all this stuff. Like, people are like, oh, you have this podcast, you have this, you have that. But still, there is this sense or desire to be a perfectionist. You want to be the best. You want to be better
Uh-huh.
than. You may have your eyes set on somebody else and be like, I want to be better than her, or I want to be better than
Uh-huh.
this, or I want that. And so because of all of those deficiencies that you may have, you feel like you're an imposter or you're just not good enough. And you're absolutely right. It can be exhausting. And I don't think people realize that it's not just a physical exhaustion, but it's also a mental exhaustion.
Love what you said there because I do think that perfectionism plays heavily into that. And I think as Black women, we have really high levels of perfectionism. I don't know if it's because, I mean, I was told this as well. So I don't know if we embody this as a child, but you have to like work twice as hard and be twice as good just to be seen as equal. So if you've been hearing that all your life, you are going to be raised a perfectionist. And then you're also going to have imposter syndrome because if you look at everyone around you, you're not even comparing yourself to them equally. You're comparing yourself to them like you have to be twice as good as them. And it's just like, it's pretty much unreasonable because we're all just humans. So, but I know that that's something that I had to tap into because I was like, how come I feel like I have to always do more and be more? I'm like, because I was told that as a child and it's something that I've kept with me all my life. And that leads to perfectionism. And then because you're not perfect, because we're not robots, then you feel like an imposter.
Absolutely. And I know for sure that many Black women suffer from
Uh-huh.
this. As I mentioned, me and my sister always compare notes about childhood growing up. And I have heard that phrase before. The way my dad said it was, you got to be twice as good to get half as far. So like where you were
Yeah.
already starting off,
You're starting
behind.
off.
How do you even make up for that? I don't even know what the math was not math in there, but
Yeah.
that is what the message that we were given. And as I talk to more people and even women generally on this podcast, I do see it over and over
Uh-huh.
again that there's something that's happening in these childhood years, some sort of childhood experience that gets people to thinking like, oh, I'm not good enough. I got to do more. This is not sufficient. And that is very toxic.
Yeah, that's something I had to uncover when I started going to therapy. Because that's like, I was one of those people, well, not that therapy is a bad thing, but I didn't have a bad childhood. I had loving parents, very supportive, nothing traumatic or overtly traumatic happened to me. But when I started going to therapy, I realized like some of these things just stick with you. And although they don't feel traumatic at that time, they do impact your way of thinking and that impacts how your life turns out. And so although I was never told that I had to do this or I would be a failure or whatever, I still kind of was like, oh, I have to like do this and be great at it or I'm going to be a failure. And like, that's just how my brain transcribed that phrase. And so that's just kind of pushed me. Like no one forced me to be a doctor. But once I said I was going to be a doctor, then everybody is supportive of you. Like, oh, I want to do this. Everybody's like, oh, that's so great. And not that I wanted to change my mind, but I've spoken and coached with women who had said one thing and wanted to change their mind and then felt like they couldn't. And I'm just like, you can always change your mind. Your vision and your life is yours alone. And just because you said something doesn't mean you have to stick with it. Or you can try it and realize it's not what you thought it was going to be and change your mind. But that also kind of keeps us there like, oh, if I said I was going to be a doctor and now I want to go be an artist, then people are going to be like, what's wrong with her? She said she was going to be a doctor. And that also kind of feeds into the imposter syndrome of it because like I said I was going to be a doctor and now I have to stick with it.
You said a mouthful there, and I want to get back to this whole idea of changing your mind and pivoting
Uh-huh.
because, people who are in corporate roles that may be thinking they want to be an entrepreneur, or they're in a corporate role and they're like, should I stay here? Because it's getting really toxic. I want to
Uh-huh.
kind of talk about how does imposter syndrome show up if, maybe you think you have it, or you may feel that there's
Uh-huh.
some sort of internal conflict going on. How would one feel or know that they may have imposter syndrome?
So I'm going to say this now, and this is something I will lead into that question. I know this is not answering the question. If you don't have imposter syndrome, if you are completely comfortable with everything in your life every day, then you're in your comfort zone. And so like, that's not a good space to be. That means you want everything to be predictable. You want to know how everything is going to go, but it means you're not challenging yourself or pushing yourself. So it's hard to say when you do, you're mostly going to have imposter syndrome if you're trying to do something different, bigger, or, just pushing yourself or challenging yourself. Anything along those lines, you're going to have imposter syndrome because you're going to be doing something that you've never done before. And so you're going to have doubt. So I want you to say, like, if I don't have imposter syndrome, do I feel comfortable? And am I really happy here? And then if you do have these moments of imposter syndrome, when you feel those moments of feeling that, look at Ron, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing in that moment? And how are you challenging yourself? And it can be different things. Like I started doing Pilates. I had a lot of imposter syndrome going to Pilates. I'm a bigger body. I'm not very flexible. And so like, I know that's like a weird space, but I'm like, oh, I would walk into the Pilates studio and I would feel like I didn't belong and I didn't need to be there and they were going to kick me out. Although it's an unreasonable thought, but that's the thought I had when I tried something new, something different. So if you don't have imposter syndrome, if you feel like you don't have it and you go through different parts of your day without feeling like that at all, then just check in with yourself and see if you're really happy or if you're just living in your comfort zone because it's easy. And when you do feel those feelings of imposter syndrome, which you will feel if you're challenging yourself, give yourself a round of applause for doing something that's challenging. And just remind yourself that this is normal when you don't know what you're doing, but you are very capable and you will know eventually.
You will know. And I love what you said about checking in with yourself. That's something that we talk about a lot on this show, which is how in tune are you with what you're thinking? And how aware are you with the thoughts that are going through your head? And we talk about this constant, feed on social media. Everybody's scrolling, you're scrolling. You don't know what time it is, how much time has passed, and you're still scrolling. And that leads to you just being detached from how you feel. And so checking in with yourself, particularly whether you're in the workplace and you're going through times where you feel like your emotions are a little bit, rocky, check in with yourself and see how you're doing in that setting.
Yeah, I think at my worst, I was just so exhausted and burnt out that I was like a shell of myself. So things didn't feel difficult, but they weren't joyful. I was just kind of moving through on like robot mode. So if you are just feeling like, everything is just going along fine, I do want you to check in with yourself and say like, it's going fine, but what do I feel like I'm missing? Or am I truly happy? And what could I do to bring myself that happiness and joy?
Now, you mentioned that those people that do check in with themselves and they feel like, hey, I'm a shell. Something's not right. So one thing is like maybe being a shell of yourself. What are some other ways that they might feel that they have imposter syndrome?
So if you have imposter syndrome, like I said, it's not something that stays with you continually because especially at work, right? In some aspects of your job, you are really comfortable because you've been doing that task or that, project for a while, but then they'll add a new project or a new task. And that's when you're going to start to feel uncomfortable. Or maybe you get a promotion and you've already earned it, but because you have the higher title, you start to feel uncomfortable. So notice the moments. It really doesn't last all day because in some ways you're going to be comfortable and in some ways you're going to be uncomfortable. And when you feel that discomfort or you just feel like, oh gosh, I'm not good enough for this. That's a strong one. Like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not good enough for this role. I don't know why they gave me this title. All of those types of negative self-talks. When you realize that it's happening, I just want you to stop and take a deep breath. And then you will start collecting your receipts. And you know how to say, collect the receipts, girl. Like you are great. You got this role, this title, you were assigned this for a reason. If you're pivoting from being in the C-suites or being in a system to becoming an entrepreneur, you have this vision, you have this mission for a reason. It didn't just come to you for you to do nothing with it. So when you have those moments of doubt, my receipts are mostly in text form because, before I started officially coaching, I was unofficially coaching friends and helping people out. And so whenever I would give advice, they would text me and be like, oh, thank you for helping me, change this thought, or you inspired me to get started on this, or you blah, blah, blah. And if you're at work, you're going to get emails, right? Because if you are getting promoted or getting assigned things, there's reasons. You're having positive evaluations, you're having positive feedback. Collect that feedback. And when you doubt yourself, stop listening to yourself because yourself is wrong and listen to other people who told you that you could do this and you are doing this. And that will help you kind of get back into that frame. Sometimes we are our own worst enemy.
Oh, yeah. And, as you were speaking, I was thinking about a recent episode of imposter syndrome that I've had, and it has to do with content creation here in Dubai. So when people think of Dubai, what do you think about? I'll just ask you, what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I think of fancy, like the big hotel and the desert and like doing bougie things like having tea on a sand dune with a
Yes.
camel.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is so Dubai, right? And I also
Mhm.
think of like yacht parties and girls in bikinis, right?
Oh,
So
yes. I saw the yachts and the jet skis. I was like, oh, okay.
right, right. All of that, all of that. And so I'm creating content about what it looks like to actually have a business in Dubai. And my content is the opposite of that. I am, I'm 44 years old. I have 4 kids. Yes, special number.
Mhm.
I'm much older than most of the women content creators here. I'm not going to
Mhm.
be out on the beach in a bikini. I may be in a swimsuit, but I'm not going to be showing all the cakes.
Mhm.
Like these are things that I'm just not going to do. And I got to a point very recently, maybe in the past week, where I was like, should I even really be talking on this app like TikTok and so should I even but no, I think when you start to collect the receipts, as you said, I mean, my
Mhm.
clap back to myself was some of these women, they better hope when they get 44 years old that they are,
Mhm.
know,
Yep.
shape and healthy and, having the right mind and all of these things and giving myself kind of receipts and flowers for the things that I've done. But you do have to practice it. It has to be
Mhm.
intentional because otherwise you will just shut down.
Yeah, it has to be intentional. Your brain was meant to keep you safe, and doing new things is not keeping you safe. So you have to overwrite that fear. Being safe is fine. Like I would say, like 90% of the world functions in that safe zone, and the 10% that take those risks are the ones that are living, truly living. And if you look around, like you can start noticing people who are just like, yeah, like life is okay. It could be better or it could be worse. And that's an okay space to be. But do you want to spend 30 more years just saying, this was okay? I mean, it could have been better if I had done this, but this is fine. Like, no, we don't want that. We don't want that
Yeah.
regret. So and also, like you said, back to the content. Yeah, that was me too, because I don't really wear makeup and I don't do like, I spend half my time in a bonnet. And so I was like, oh, I don't want to like have to put makeup on and film content. And they were like, just film it. And some of my best work is like in my pajamas with my eye patches on and in my bonnet. And that's like my most viewed content. So, people want to see realness now. And I'm happy that in an age where AI is taking over, there's a space for realness and like aspiration, like true aspiration. We can't all aspire to be an Instagram model or an influencer. I don't even aspire for that. Like, yeah, I mean, maybe a fun vacation. Sure, I'll want to see that kind of content. But like for my real life aspiration of making serious changes about my business and my future, I need to see real life people who are doing it, which is you. So we appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. See, I'm going to take that as a receipt and save it for later.
Take it as a receipt. Save this clip.
I'm going to save it. And so I wanted to also talk about because many of our listeners are people who are considering leaving corporate. And one of my most downloaded episodes is it time to leave your 9 to 5? And that tells me that a lot of people are sitting there stewing, thinking, should I just leave this place because I have had it up to here? And one of the things you and I discuss is that there's two paths to deal with that. Let's get into it. Tell us what you perceive the two paths to be.
So there's actually three paths, but we only spoke about two because I don't think that one is truly a path because you always have a choice. And so if you're going to leave your 9 to 5, you can say, I want to do this, but I'm too afraid and I'm going to stay here even though I'm miserable. And that's the third path that I don't really agree with. So we're not going to talk about that one. You already know what it's like. If you're done on this episode, if you're thinking about leaving your 9 to 5, you already have a reason. So staying seems unreasonable to me. And so for me, there's only two like real paths that you can take. And so for me personally, this was a crossroads I was also at when I was burnt out and I was going to leave medicine after 4 years of medical school, 5 years of training, 10 years of working and making medicine my life. I felt too consumed by my role and it was just so overwhelming. I didn't know myself anymore because I identified put myself in the box of being a doctor. And I was like, to start over, I had to just leave medicine completely. And that was the path I started out on, which was the time to leave. Yes, leave completely. And after I left, which a short break, I didn't leave completely, but I was like, you know what? I have a therapist, I have a coach, I have friends. And they were like, girl, just take a break, right? So luckily I was in a situation where I could give myself a few months of a break. And so if you can't afford to do that, that should be your first step is if you're really considering leaving your 9 to 5, if your job can provide you with a sabbatical or a prolonged leave or FMLA or whatever it is that you can get on, you should try to do that because that will just give you space to think, rest, return to your brain like creatively, kind of remove that day-to-day monotony of going to work and give yourself time without feeling so strained financially. Because I know some people get really anxious. So if you can take an actual leave of absence from your current job while you figure it out, that would be my first advice. But taking a break, however long you can, to not think about work, to not think about next steps, but to only think about yourself. Who were you before all of this stuff? Who are you? Like Nikia is a caring, compassionate person. Nikia wants to help people. Nikia actually cares about the prolonging the life expectancy of Black and brown people and women especially. And that is why Nikia became a doctor. Like Nikia is a doctor for those reasons. Nikia does not have those reasons because she's a doctor. And so when I kind of returned to that part of myself, I remembered why I wanted to be a doctor in the first place. So like whatever you're doing, like return to yourself, figure yourself out, and then decide if yourself can fit into this role or this job or this system, because there's many reasons to leave a job, right? You might like the work, but hate the boss, or you might like the work, but need different hours because of childcare or whatever. So then figure out yourself, because yourself is the most important. You can't make any decisions without knowing what is important to you first. So once you figure yourself out, what's truly important, how you want your life to be, then you start analyzing the job. What about this job makes me want to leave it? Do I like it, but I have a vision for something else? And that something is nagging at me. Can I make room for a side hustle and see how it goes and then expand it? You know, maybe you do like your job, but you just have this unwavering belief that you should be doing this other thing. And that's not a bad place to be. Maybe you just, like you said, like your coworkers, but hate the bosses. Can you transfer to a different department, or can you just make a lateral shift to another company? I always tell people who are quitting jobs, as someone who has quit 4 jobs, they're just always so afraid to quit because they like their coworkers. And I mostly tell people, you like your coworkers because they like you because you're a good person. So if you're a good person, you radiate good energy and people like you and you like them. You will take that energy with you wherever you go. I've gone to 4 jobs. I've had relationships with coworkers at every job, relationships that have outlasted the job. So don't stay there because you like the people. If the people and you really connect, you guys will connect elsewhere. And if the job is truly toxic and you go elsewhere, you will now be the one recruiting people, and your new job will love you even more because they'll be like, oh, we need people. And you can start recruiting people that you like, and that will be all good for everybody. Sorry, that was tangential, but that's a big thing that I coach through. Oh, I hate my job, but I love my coworkers. That is a very, very common thing. And then secondly, if you just know that this job is just not right, if you were told or sold the lie of it's a good job, so I can't leave it because I get benefits or this or that, if that is the only reason that you are staying, then you need to really reevaluate, because staying because someone else told you this was a good job, but you don't like it, that's a mindset problem, right? So like there's many reasons people want to leave, but if you feel pulled to do something else, I want to encourage you to lean into that. If you don't like your job and you like your coworkers, get over that. And if you believe that this is a good job, even though you are miserable and dying inside, then you could definitely come work with me. I'll help you through that one. But I know that is something like, oh, this is such a good job. You are miserable. So there's like a lot of different reasons like on this path, but like that is kind of it. So I got back to myself. I decided I did like aspects of my job. I decided what I didn't like was working every day or feeling dread when I wake up because of have to working every day or working with toxic bosses or whatever. And so then after I was really clear in that, I started intentionally looking for my next job. And I intentionally put it out there that I'm only willing to work part-time. That was my first hard boundary. I'm only working part-time. And everybody's like, you'll never find that job. You're crazy. That's not out there. But guess what? I found one. I'm working part-time. And then I was like, okay, I'm only going to work for a boss who I believe is compassionate and not an authoritarian. And so then I interviewed with my boss and we had a very collegial conversation. And I knew, because I'm a good person, I knew the coworkers who I was going to be working with, because when they started going there, they were like, you need to come work here with us. We can give you part-time. That's how I found the job, by being a good coworker. I was recruited. And so everything kind of works out. And I don't want to be like fluff about it, like, oh, everything will work out. It was interesting. I had imposter syndrome. People are telling you can't find what you want. People are telling you that what you want is too much. People will tell you that whatever your dream is, to start a business, to become an entrepreneur, is too big. Just stay here. People will tell you all of these things, including your own brain. So when you hear it in your brain and people are reinforcing that, they're doubling down on that thought. So you have to actively fight against them, which is why you have to work on your mindset and have your receipts.
Gotta have those receipts. And I love what you said about this idea of part-time work and designing what's going to work for you. And a lot of people don't, I guess it's because you don't see it around you.
Mm-mm.
Maybe you've never, I've never seen a part-time anesthesiologist.
Yeah.
I've never seen a fractional counsel. I've never seen a content creator slash YouTuber slash whatever the heck it is I do. We've never seen it, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you've seen it or not. You can create it.
Exactly.
And
You
that
can
is
create
what
it.
I think that's a great point. And I think that's also kind of a solution to this imposter syndrome. Because when you start designing things for yourself and shaping them the way you want, and I also like how you said you told yourself, you're only going to do part-time. I'm only doing part-time. And then you stuck with it. And that is so powerful. We also talk a lot about making choices, like decisions that's my line in the sand.
Yep.
I'm not going to do it. I'm not. And you can also speak to that. I mean, do you find that sometimes when you're coaching clients that there's a little bit of, we call it like weeble wobble, like back
Mm-hmm.
and forth, like, oh, I kind of
Yep.
don't want this, but
Yeah, there's a lot of resistance. And I think it comes from two things. I think the first step is that they don't know what they actually want. And that's why I said, start with yourself first. Once you actually know what you want, it makes the decisions a little bit easier, but not always, because you're going to be bucking the norm. People will say, that's not the normal. And you're going to be like, I'm not a normal person. And I'm okay with that. like, like you're not regular. My friend told me, you're not regular, so don't do regular-ish. And I was like, preach. Like that was in my, that's in my I'm like, put that in the receipts bucket. I'm not regular. I don't do regular-ish. Okay. But becoming comfortable with that is like the part that you have to work on. But I do think that once you start putting stuff out there, you'll start to see other things, right? If you stay in this lane, you only see the normal, working full time, working 9 to 5, staying there for 35 years, being miserable, but waiting for your benefits and your retirement. That's what you're going to see in the 95% normal lane. But once you start stepping outside and just mentioning things, like when you mention things, people will bring it to you. I said, I want to be part-time. My friend said, we're hiring part-time. I would love for you to come work with us, right? And as far as in the business world, like I've learned so much things stepping out just into entrepreneurship that I didn't even know existed in business, right? Because I'm not a business person. I am medical. I'm now becoming an entrepreneur. And so now there's fractional CEOs, there's consultants, there's coaching. People just do business coaching, finance coaching, consulting, like these different roles. And I think that there is now more space for 1099 contracting work where you can say, I like this part of my job. If you like one part of your job and don't like any of the rest of it, then you just double down on that part. You're like, okay, I'm an accountant, but I only like doing the taxes, right? And they only do the taxes. Or like, I am like, I work here. Like, I know a teacher. This is not business at all, right? It's trying to tell you how conventional, like this, you can do this for anything. A teacher who quit being a teacher and now is a coach for children who are entering kindergarten. That's it. Parents come to her and she coaches them and their child to be prepared to enter kindergarten because so many kids are already behind and, people want their kid to be whatever. So she chose that grade. That's what she does. She teaches this. She said she might expand to other grades, but right now she's been only teaching like what to do when you're putting your kid from preschool to kindergarten. and she does little cohorts, and the parents come through. They do their 6 or 8 week cohorts of prepping your kid from from pre-K to kindergarten, and she just pushes them through. And how many kids in the world are there? A bajillion.
This right here is a whole podcast episode because I am a firm believer that when you focus on what it is that you want, right? Like when like you said, first you identify, you get to know what you want. And that's a big problem for a lot of us. We don't know what we want. And hey, sometimes I change. Sometimes I may want to do legal stuff one day and 2 weeks later I'm back. We do change. So you get to know what you want. And then the second piece, like you said, like when you actually carve out that and you make the decision and say, that's what I'm going to do. And other things fall in line. So that's what people don't really see is the fall in line part is because you think it's all you. You think it's all, oh, I got to do this. If I don't post 5 times a day at this time, it's not going to work. And this and that. You got to, at some point, you got to let go and just believe that things will fall in line. And that is I'm a huge fan of doing that. Sometimes people look at me like, what are you doing? Nothing.
Yeah.
I'm doing nothing on purpose.
I'm just waiting for it. Yeah, I was just coaching my friend the other day. I do coach my friends. I was coaching my friend the other day, and she was like, "Can you please coach me right now? I'm spiraling." And I'm like, "Yes, I got you." And I was just like, at the very end, it was just like, you have to release control, and that's part of it. We just have control issues. We like to plan things out, want them to go how we want, and this is something new that you don't know what will come of it. So if it's new, you have no data to decide, oh, this will happen, this will happen, this will happen. You can have your expectations, but as we already spoke to, our expectations are already perfection. And so it's like, if I don't have any data or any idea what I'm doing, I'm trying something new, but I expect it to be perfect, then what's the problem? You're the problem. I'm the problem. Like, that's not the problem. I'm the problem for doing something new and expecting it to be perfect on the first try. Like, so that's just like you said, if you're posting content and I saw this on TikTok, so I didn't claim this, but like if I'm posting content and I'm stuck in the 300s, the 300 jail, I can't get more viral than 300 people. But of those 300 people, I have 10 people commenting saying, wow, thank you. Why am I upset by that? I'm the problem. I've now affected and impacted 10 people who I do not know. And I've reached 300. I don't even have 300 in my circle. So it's like, I've already touched 300 people who I don't know. And 10 of them were so impacted that they commented or liked it. So don't be upset. It takes time. But like when you remember, like for me, it's always remember why you do this. And I said, if I could just help one person not get to the level of burnout, exhaustion, and kind of questioning themselves that I got to, if I can catch them earlier, or if they're there and I can help them recover quicker, then I've done my job. So I've already done my job. Good job. Thank you. I'm great. I've helped one person. Yes, I gave myself a receipt. I've done my job. Anything above that is just like icing on top of the cake. So I think we have to just, as Black women, have to just wind it in a little bit. Like, it's not going to be perfect the first time. It's not going to go how you want every time. But at the end of the day, whatever you put out there is going to help somebody.
Another point to kind of what you're saying when you think about imposter syndrome in the workplace and in the context of being an entrepreneur, it doesn't go away. It doesn't it's not just, oh, I'm in this company and, there are promotions and there are titles and the result is I have imposter syndrome. No. When you are going for funding, when people ask to see your numbers, when you're doing whatever it is, you will have bouts of imposter syndrome. And I think that's why when you said, you really have to work on this, it's a process, it's a journey. You don't just snap your fingers and get over it. And I think it's really important for people to understand that.
Yeah. It's like this new level, new devil situation. And that's why I said, if you are an entrepreneur and you're going to first you're going to be starting up, and that's going to be learning tech and learning finances and all this stuff. Then you're going to be hiring, and then it's going to be learning how to be a leader, learning how to manage, learning how to delegate. And then you're going to have a team, and it's going to be learning more and more and more. Like, it's the same thing. Like, if you are actually moving and challenging yourself, then you're going to have imposter syndrome at every level, because at every level, there's going to be a new challenge. If you're an entrepreneur or in a company and you're just like, oh, this is growing smoothly, I don't have to worry about anything, then you're not challenging yourself. And I say this, I just a few weeks ago I was at a conference, at ROI conference with Rachel Rogers, who has $1 million company. And even she was like, oh, I got too comfortable and now I had to do this and that. And it's like, when you see women of that level at least admit to this, like, okay, I had growing pains, then I did this, and then I got here, and then I was here for a while, and then someone was like, well, how come you're here and not here? And then she's like, at first I was offended, like, how come I'm not here? Then she's like, I thought about it, and I was like, oh, because I'm just comfortable right now. And is that enough? If you get to if you have a multi-million dollar company, and you're comfortable there, then that's your prerogative. I'm not going to tell you have to strive for more. But if her mission in life is to help Black women or BIPOC people create generational wealth and become millionaires, then that's her mission. And if she's comfortable here, then she's going to limit the impact. And that's not what her mission is.
Yeah. I've actually had someone ask me, when is it going to be enough for you? And I was like, I'm just getting started.
Exactly.
What are you
Like when
talking
you're
about?
talking, and that's what I'm saying. When you talk about impacting others, there's never enough. When you talk about changing lives of others, there's never enough. You can put a monetary number. Oh, 5 million is enough. 10 million is enough. 100 million is enough. Like you can put a limit on numbers, but when you're doing it for impact, I'm just going to keep going, honey. Just
Yeah.
keep
And
going.
you've got to. You've got to. I want to also talk a bit about this statistic that I heard, that when it comes to entrepreneurship in the US specifically, the largest percentage of new entrepreneurs, new business owners are Black women. And there has been some theories and some studies around that about why Black women are leaving the workplace in droves. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's multifaceted, truthfully. I mean, because we as Black women are the highest educated demographic, right? And so the education aspect is playing into it. We're getting advanced degrees, we're doing this and that. And when you start getting degrees and advanced degrees, not that you have to have that to be an entrepreneur, but it definitely opens up your world more. If you're going to get MBAs and such, and you're working in corporations, and you realize, oh, I can go out on my own and do this. So I'm very happy for us. Round of applause for all of us for being highly educated and motivated. Secondly, the systems were not created for us. None of the systems, right? These systems were created by the patriarchy, capitalism, white men. And so no system, the healthcare system, the corporate system, the legal system, like none of these systems are created for Black women. They don't create safe space for Black women. They don't create opportunities for Black women. They don't mentor Black women. They rely heavily on Black women. They love relying on us and extracting everything we have to give because of our perfectionism and our striving and our determination and our superwoman and our power. They love that. So they love to extract, but then they don't help us along the way. And I do love to see that just now in the past, 10 years, we finally have some Black female CEOs of these, corporations, but that's only of recent. And then who knows what those women had to go through. I hope they write books. But so I think that when you get into a system that's not made for you to advance, to mentor, to support you, and extracts from you, and then you realize I'm an educated and capable person, I'm going to go do this on my own, then it just makes so much sense that we're the most entrepreneurial minded of recent. It makes sense to me because look at me, healthcare. Like we don't get any kind of business training. We don't even learn the business of healthcare, like insurance and reimbursements. We don't even learn that in medical school. All we learn is how to take care of a patient and to listen to what they tell us to do. So we are just basically, going through training to become, you know, subservient to the system and, martyrs. But that's what scares so many physicians from becoming entrepreneurs. I don't know business. I don't know finances. I don't know any of this stuff. But then we realize like I'm just an educated person and I know how to ask smart questions and I know how to find people who know the answer to the question I have. Like I don't have to know how to do finances. All I have to know is how to find a company that can do it for me. And that's it. But
So
I'm
much.
proud of us.
Yeah, I am too. I am too. And, I hope this episode gets to the right ears because I practiced law for 15 years before I went out on my own. And I knew at my first role at a law firm in Connecticut that this was going to be a problem.
Yeah.
This is not, this is not shaping up the way I thought. So, first year associate, mother of two. I had my two sons during law school, which was really crazy. Whole other
Girl.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah. But here I was, first year associate, and I'm thinking this is like a regular job. Oh, they know I have, they know I have young children, and I mean, of course, I know that there are expectations for billable hours, etc. But I was thinking, and everything that I had been told was, we're for diversity, we're for work-life balance, we
Mhm,
want women, we want you to be partner, and that was not the case.
mhm,
Everything from certain really good projects not being given to me to partners being, a little bit, I would say like hostile, but, passive aggressive in
mhm,
the workplace. And all of those things shaped my idea about what it means to work at a law firm. And since that experience, I went into going in-house. I went
mhm,
in-house. So it's very interesting to me when I talk to other Black lawyers who are in firms right now, and I say, "How is it for you? How is it going?" And I get varied responses. Some are like, "Well, it's okay, and I get the feeling that those who are partner have had to eat a certain amount of discomfort and swallow some things, and that's the
yeah,
choice that we said that was choice number one, that, things that you don't like, you just swallow it. I get the sense that there's a large number of people that have done that. And then other people kind of just decide to ignore things that they don't like. Or I think another one which we didn't talk about was, how do you change yourself to be able to navigate these spaces? And I was the one that had to leave because I wasn't, I guess I'm too much like my father. I was like, nope, that's it. No, that's enough. So
yeah.
yeah, what are your thoughts about that?
I think I call this micro correction, and that's what I was practicing. And it is, I was telling my friend, I was like, if my normal self is not like anger or anything, but if my normal self is just a 10 out of 10, at work, I'm like a 7 out of 10. Like I'm never my full self. And that's kind of playing into like after you go to work every day and kind of shrink yourself and downplay yourself into like a more palatable version. Well, what you think is a palatable version for everybody else. Like that kind of contributes, again, that contributes to the imposter syndrome because you're actually not even being yourself. So you're just like, how can you feel confident in yourself and your skills when you're not even being yourself? And so, yeah, I did that for a while initially, and it doesn't feel good. I don't have the right words to say that. It's like kind of like, oh, like I remember when I did that, and it's just like you kind of feel bad about it. Like, why did I do that to myself? Like, why did I betray myself? Why did I let myself down like that? But as like I told you, I've quit jobs 4 times. So I'm on my fifth job. As I quit each job, I got a little bit more confident. And I tell people that like you don't really get confident staying in the same space. Like I quit this job and then I was like, okay, on this next job, I'm not doing that. Like I'm not going to be a 7. I'm going to be my 10 self, like sassy, one-liners, whatever. I'm just going to be that. And if they don't like it, they can just stay away from me. And so with each iteration, I just became more and more comfortable being my authentic and full self. But that is an option. I didn't talk about that because like actually I kind of forgot about it until you mentioned it, but I did do that. And it is not a good feeling. And if you tap in with yourself and realize that you're not being like your real self, you should have to question why you feel like you can't be and why you feel like you shouldn't be and what would happen if you did and like ways to start trying to like press yourself up. If you're a 7, then go to an 8. And then if you're an 8, then go to a 9 until you kind of unveil it. But it's easier to move through life if you're the same way all the time, which is just how you are.
Absolutely.
Like it's easier to just be yourself all the time. And when you're trying to be a different version of yourself, it definitely contributes to you feel like an imposter. At that point, you truly are an imposter because you're
Yeah.
not yourself.
At that point, you
And it's
really are. It's not a syndrome. You
You
really
really
are.
are. It's
Monster.
not a syndrome. You're just an imposter. Who are you?
But this is the funny part, because we think that it's just, oh, I'm just changing my personality, but there are real health consequences to this.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
people don't understand the physical toll it has on your body to bite your tongue, not say something when you want to say it, constantly feel degraded at work or to feel put down, and to not stand up for yourself.
And I would say to counter your statistic of us being, well, the statistic of us being the most educated and taking the entrepreneurial leap more frequently, Black women are also rising in rates of cardiovascular disease and other medical conditions. So high blood pressure, heart attacks, abdominal issues, which come from inflammation, which is caused by stress, high cortisol, anxiety, all of these things. And so although we are striving and being great in the world, our bodies are not, and our minds too, because our minds is imposter syndrome. So our minds, imposter syndrome and perfectionism, and our bodies, increasing medical complications from this lifestyle that we chose. Like, we have to make sure that we are doing our best to balance it out. If you're always working and always thinking about work, when are you taking time for movement? When are you taking time for rest? When are you taking time to meditate? When are you taking time for gratitude? You have to release these things. Like you said, like, you can't keep this stuff in. And if you're not talking out at work, who are you talking out to when you leave work? You have a therapist, a friend, a coach. You have to release this stuff. Keeping stuff in is not good. And people are like, oh, it's just this. I'm like, no, it will affect your health down the line. And we don't want you to be the first ever CEO of some big company at 40 and having a heart attack at 45. Like, that's not helping anybody.
That's not. And that reduces your impact. You can't impact anybody's life when you're not taking care of yourself.
That's what they need to know. You cannot give to
key.
anybody if you are drained. If you are not pouring into yourself, then you are of no help to anybody else. So if you don't want to be selfish, I'll give to them. But think about, how can you give to them if you have nothing to give?
Preach. As I say, preach. Dr. Nikia Smith, I really appreciate this conversation. I feel as though there are a lot of people that have listened to this and will have some takeaways. You've covered what imposter syndrome is, but also what are some ways you can know that you have it, and then how you can counter that, things that you can do. Yeah. If you had one word of advice or one piece of advice to give to young woman, I'll say, for this episode, who's sitting in the corporate space and she feels like an imposter, what would you say to her?
Say, if you're feeling like an imposter, clap your hands for yourself. You are challenging something in yourself or in the society or the system. You are doing something great if you feel like you're an imposter. So firstly, just clap your hands, give yourself your own flowers. Okay. We can't wait for people to give us our flowers. And secondly, take a deep breath, open your receipts and start reading them until you calm down. And anybody listening to this, I would love to hear your receipts. So I'm just going to do a little plug real quick. Sorry, but I am on Instagram at Nikia Smith MD. Go ahead, follow, slide into my DM, screenshot me your receipts. I want to give you your flowers and your applause and your praise because I know that you're doing great things.
Does that count for me? Because I'm going to do that after this episode.
Yes, please send me your receipts. I love to see it.
Love that. Dr. Nikia Smith, thank you so much. And we'll be sure to include your Instagram in the show notes for this episode. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
It was so great. Thanks for having me.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to today's episode. You know, I appreciate when you guys tune in and the time that you take to listen to the show and support us. And I have one thing that I'd love for you to do that would really help us out, which is rate the show. If you've enjoyed it, make sure you rate it. You can do it on whatever platform you're listening on. That would do wonders for us. And if you really want to be a super fan and really support the show, there's a link below that you can support us and donate a small monthly contribution, which allows us to continue to create great content for you. Thanks so much again. Appreciate you and see you next time.